my name is Tara Andrade. I am making this video for you today so we can talk about effective communication in the field of higher education. Educators are flooded with different types of interactions that they have to participate in every single day on the job. And as such, it's absolutely crucial that we develop effective communication skills to handle and negotiate through some of these situations. On any given day, we're going to be asked to interact with our students. We're going to be asked to engage with the public, perhaps. And just as importantly as either of these two is going to be our interactions and communications with our colleagues. We're going to be asked to develop curriculum together, and we're going to be, collaborating and discussing students we have in common and a vast array of other things. And so these kinds of communications really can require effective communication skills. There are a lot of challenges and difficulties to dealing with communication in higher education. Simply because it's changed so much. In the past, face-to-face was going to be the number one primary means of communicating, and that's not the case anymore. More and more, a lot of these communications are taking place in technological platforms or online or via email, and all of these new types of communication have added a whole new layer. There's a new etiquette for communicating, and sometimes it can be a challenge to kind of work our way through that and figure out what's appropriate and what's not. And so that really has added a whole new aspect, but it can be overcome. And I do have some tips that I have researched and practiced in my own position as an educator that I think it can prove super helpful in making sure that our communications end up being successful. So let's go ahead and get started. The first one that I have is really so simple, but it's really not that simple. The skill is to listen. And the key to listening is to listen to understand rather than listen to respond. And that's something that challenges me sometimes because I have so many ideas and I want to get them all out, and sometimes that puts me right in the way of myself. We need to make sure that we're receptive to the messages of our colleagues and of our students and of the other people that we are interacting with. And that means having the respect to understand what it is that they're sharing with us. Not so that we can respond to it, but so that we can internalize it and make our response based on the actual message received. Which brings me to my next skill, because the message received is not always the message that was intended. This is especially true for written communication, such as email, where tone can be a little murky. And so it's important that we understand that it's okay to ask for clarification. So that's my skill number 2, is going to be ensuring that you are asking for clarification where it is needed. If you don't understand or you think that you're misinterpreting something, don't be afraid to ask. It's really that simple. And people are not offended when you ask them, what did you mean by that? Can you explain that a little bit more? Can you elaborate? Making sure that you receive the message that they intended for you to receive is really important. Skill number 3 is going to be to honor your colleagues' time. I cannot tell you how many times I've come across a meme online that states, this could have been an email. And I think that sometimes that is certainly true, and it connects to this point because we want to make sure that we are honoring the time. If it can be sent through an email, maybe it should be. When you're scheduled to meet with somebody at a certain time, it's respectful to be there at that time, whether it be online, such as a Skype or a Zoom conference, or whether it's face-to-face in person. Make sure that if you have something on the agenda that needs to get done, that's what gets done first, okay? We all have places to be, things to do, and we want to make sure that we're respecting our colleagues. And that respect really sets the tone for the communications that you will have in the future as well. And respecting their time really kind of leads me into my 4th tip, and that is to, set conditions for the communication. Sometimes you're going to need to decide, when are we going to meet? Where are we going to meet? What are we going to discuss? How are we going to accomplish this? And kind of setting up the format for that communication. With so many different types of communication modes out there, it's really, really, really not unnecessary to set those conditions, because wires can be crossed very easily. So setting those conditions right up front is a really good thing to do. Some PLC or learning communities even set up norms that set up those conditions right at the get-go. So that can be an incredibly helpful thing to do as well. Now, some communications are going to lead to possible confrontations. We are educators because we care very deeply about what we do, and we're not always going to agree. And sometimes conflicts are going to arise. And so it's important that we also have some strategies and some tips for kind of knowing how to de-escalate situations. And I have two I want to share with you. And the first one has to do with body language. Body language speaks as loudly as our words do. And so when we are in a disagreement, it's important that we don't shut our, body and, pout with our body. It's important that we make contact and we make ourselves open, and we lean in and we engage in body conversation as well. And then the second tip for de-escalating is going to be, do not diminish the other party in the conflict. Acknowledge their feelings and focus on the facts. Acknowledge their feelings, but you don't necessarily have to throw yours out there. Make sure that they know that you understand and that you see their perspective, and then focus on the facts in the matter. And when you couple that with the open body language, very often that can de-escalate the situation. So these are some tips, some strategies that I have used both effectively, and sometimes not using them effectively has led to some touchy situations. But these are my experiences and some tips that I have found to work in my own situations, as well as some things that I researched that I plan to use in future situations. So I hope that you are able to find some benefit to some of these, and I appreciate your time. Thank you. Have a great one.